So we like your story, but there's no romance in it. Could you throw some romance in there? I was like, well, there wasn't any. You want me to just make it up? They're like, yeah, I'll just take some creative license. I was like, geez, this isn't going to work well. And at the time, the self-publishing world was just starting to rumble.
Welcome back to Talking with Teri TV. We've heard from this exceptional woman before. She walked around the world and shared so many of her amazing adventures with us on our last show. But when it came time for Polly to write her book about these adventures, she faced many roadblocks. But that didn't stop her. Where there's a will, there's a way. She knew her story deserved to be heard no matter what. Welcome, Polly, back to the show.
Thanks for having me, Teri.
Oh my gosh. Okay, I was blown away by your story last time, and then you had this incredible journey, and this journey just keeps on giving, and out of that, you created your own publishing company.
Yeah.
So let's unpack that a little bit.
Yeah, that's quite a bridge.
That's quite a bridge. Yes, let's unpack this. So on your journey of walking around the world, like where did you have the idea of writing your story on that journey, or did that come after?
I didn't.
Okay.
I was no writer at all. But I was swimming around the gene pool because my father's a writer, my mother's a writer.
Oh heavens!
Right?
Look
so
at that.
There's something hanging around the gene pool.
Right? Okay.
So when I left in 1999, if I can take you back technologically, that's when the internet started.
Yeah.
And people were just starting to hear about these things called websites.
Yep.
And I was one of the first of any friends to have a website.
Look at you, fancy you.
Yes, I was very fancy. And the word blog didn't exist yet.
Mm-hmm.
So I called them journals. And I would send my journals every day to our website master. I think they called them webmasters or something at the time. And then he would put my journals on there. And the thing is, like in college, when you take creative writing courses and you get graded on them, I kept getting C's, because I think I was trying to be someone else,
Yeah.
And at one point in my life, I was writing commercials, and that was writing for someone else.
Right.
And so now for the first time, I can just be myself. I ain't getting graded. No one is paying me. So I could be myself.
Yeah.
And it started to create a following. I was writing about stupid things and I don't know. And it started to create a following. And then in the middle of my journey, I entered a travel writing contest and I won. And the grand prize was a cruise down along the coast of Costa Rica. So I stopped my walk. I went to Costa Rica, came back, started walking again.
That's so funny.
So I started writing, and that's one of the skills that walk had bought me.
Yeah.
But what was the question?
So my question is did you go into this walk knowing that you wanted to write a book?
I did not want to write a book. It was never on my radar. But of course, I'm swimming around in the gene pool. Mom's a writer, dad's a writer. And I was finally in a place where I could just be myself writing. Yeah. And that's the biggest thing I tell people now.
Yeah.
Is training to just be yourself and let loose. And you don't have to be someone else. You don't have to be Stephen King. You can just be yourself. Yeah. And it started to create a following.
Yeah.
And I think when I got done, and my dad really wanted me to write the story. And I guess I didn't want it to be lost because a lot of people around the world helped me.
Yeah.
And I had learned a lot. And who knew, but this walk happened in a time in world history.
Yeah.
Being 9/11 happened while I was in the Muslim world on my walk. It was sort of an interesting story that needed to be told, but it was not a story about how I went out to find myself. I found myself a long time ago. It was just great human deep curiosity that made me want to go do this. It wasn't I went out to find myself. So I got back, and of course I had to get a job, and I had to find a way beyond walking to just transportation. So I had to buy a car. And so in fact, I needed 2 jobs. And so writing my book on the weekends, it actually took me 6 years to write my book.
Wow.
Yes. And when I finished, it was 1,300 pages long. The end. But of course, You can't have a 1,300-page book.
No kidding.
So I just kept clipping and clipping and
Massive
clipping.
editing it took place.
Yeah, a lot of stories hit the editing room floor, as they say.
Mhm.
So then I started pitching it around to different publishers. And I don't want to pretend that big publishers were throwing themselves at me,
Right.
but I was talking to 2 of them.
Yeah.
And they would say to me, both of them said this, so we like your story, but there's no romance in it. Could you throw some romance in there? I was like, well, there wasn't any. You want me to just make it up? They're like, yeah, just take some creative license. I was like, geez, this isn't going to work well. And at the time, the self-publishing world was just starting to rumble.
Yeah.
This is now like 2006, 2007. It was just starting to rumble, but still didn't look good.
Yeah.
And so I decided to go this route, which was like a medium, like the independent.
Like a press or something?
Yeah, a small independent press where they'll take anybody. And everyone had always said to me, you got to keep your copyrights. Whatever you do, keep your copyrights. I'm like, all right, I'll keep my copyrights. So with this small independent publisher, I said, can I keep my copyrights? She says, yeah, sure. Oh, I said, oh, well, that was easy. But what I didn't know to ask, and what no one ever told me, was that there are a lot more rights than just your copyrights.
Yeah.
There's your sales rights, your distribution rights, your foreign rights, your digital rights. There's actually a term that means for all rights in the future that we don't know exist right now.
Wow.
So like 20 years ago, that would have been audio book rights.
Yeah.
So you're given every right away,
yeah,
including your children and your left arm too. So I signed at the dotted line. And so that started the worst, some could say the best thing that ever happened to me. And that was a very expensive, painful lesson that I learned. One of which is a publishing contract is like a marriage.
Yes.
Like there's a sign-on date.
Oh, yes.
And there's no sign-off date. You don't say, well, do you take thee for 7 years? And if it doesn't work out, then, although I see that coming.
I'm laughing because like when I published my book, I had some similar issues. Right? And we're not going to get into my story because it's a sad story.
Yes. Well, what happened was once I finally realized what I had signed, I was in a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
And to say nothing of the fact that, this publisher broke every clause in the contract.
Yeah.
So I go to this attorney. This attorney finally says to me after months, well, listen, you have a choice. You can stay and work things out, or you can run for your life. And I said, I choose to run. So I did run for my life. But now I'm like, well, now what?
Yeah.
I can't go with the big traditional house. They're going to make me put things in there that didn't happen.
Yeah.
And I don't want to go this route where they, have all these controls over me. But now what? So I see this class about self-publishing that happens in a 2-day weekend. And I'm this Yahoo in the back. Convince me, right?
Right.
And boy, within 5 minutes, I'm like, And now I've moved all the way to the front. And I'm this person here, raising my hand. One more question. Listen, I just got one more question. Just a quickie. Just one more. Right? And my world just blew up. I was like, that's what I'm doing. And frankly, over the course of learning, then over the next year, when I republished my book, I learned a lot more lessons, failing miserably, because that's what I do. And was watching people making the same mistakes over and over again. Expensive, painful, sometimes dangerous lessons about the publishing world.
And so you created your own publishing company. This is profound. And so I've known you for, I don't know how many years I've known of you and known you. But I've referred lots of people because when people go down to the self-publishing route, I'm like, go here because I just know you're a safe and trusted person. And I think that a lot of us have a story within, right? That, anytime I'm asking clients or people that I come in contact, it's like, what's that story? Like, what's that knowing that you know? And, are you ready to put it on paper? And there's so many people that afraid of it being so difficult. And maybe, going through your experiences is like, it does feel terrifying. It feels like this big thing. So what would you share with folks that know that they have a book inside them, but they're just kind of afraid of the process?
First of all, I would say to them, please do your homework. And call me first. And that's not even a pitch for my business. That's just like, please let me shake you a little bit and give you some realities. Reality check. But there is a statistic put out by the New York Times that 81% of people want to write a book.
Wow, that's really high.
Yeah.
I believe it. Yeah.
So I got to thinking, okay, 81% of people want to write a book. What's the percentage of that 81% that actually do
it?
You know what it is?
Yeah. What?
0.83.
Oh my gosh.
Under 1% of people actually do write a book, of those that want to write a book. It's not only...
It's a place of vulnerability. I know that
Yes.
for me, when I was writing my book, I had it written, and then my girlfriend kept saying, when are you going to push? I'm like, no, I have it written. Like, it's fine. It's done. Like, it's written.
Oh, you're cute.
It's written.
You're precious.
It's written. I've done my part, right? And then she's like, you got to publish it now. I'm like, no. And I was like, so she just kept calling me. And I mean, really, Kelly, I love you. And she just kept bugging me. And finally, I was like, oh my gosh, how do I get you off my back? And she goes, well, just publish it. I'm like, that's it? And she's like, yeah. So I hit publish just to get her off my back. It's really because of you, Kelly. But it's a vulnerability about putting yourself out there and really having your message being heard by people. And, there's always critics, right? There's always, people come back, and I feel like sometimes they find that the negative or the whatever one word that you have misspelt in there, they're going to find it, and they're going to tell you, and they're going to make sure that they point it out, right?
Yes.
And so it is a little bit of a vulnerability piece, but it's also your story, and,
it's like
putting
an
it out
art,
there.
right? And so putting your art out there to have people critique it and what you want to say versus what you should say. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know, right? We're going to come right back. Let's hold that thought. We're going to come right back after this commercial break with Polly and her journey and how she overcame not only this powerful walk around the world, but also going against the traditional publishing, and creating your own legacy. We'll be right back.
I'm Jeffrey Bowling, owner and jewelry designer at Jeffrey B. Jewelers, Denver's #1 jewelry design studio. And the reason why we're #1 is because of our 3D custom jewelry design. We can show you what your piece is going to look like way before the end product. And this is going to give you the comfort of knowing you get exactly what you want.
He took me over to the computer and we started drawing up exactly what I wanted. And I told my husband, I'm like, Jeffrey B is the person we're going to use.
And the other reason is that all of our gold and our diamonds are ethically sourced. So when you're ready to make that proposal, when you're ready for that legacy piece, go to jeffreyb.com and make an appointment. Because when it's love, it's Jeffrey B.
Welcome back. We're here with Polly Leftowsky, who walked around the world, but in doing so has created her own publishing company. So welcome back.
Thank you.
All right, so tell us how My Word Publishing really got started.
Well, after I realized that people were making the same stupid, expensive, even dangerous mistakes that I had made, my friends kept sending them to me, saying, Polly's figured this out. Go talk to her. So for 2 whole years, I'm meeting people at the Panera. And by now, I've created spreadsheets and lists and graphics and charts. Do this first, then do that, then do this, and work with these people, don't work with these people, right? And then I'd check in with them. How you doing? You have any questions? 2 years I'm doing this. I swear to God, this is how it happened. I'm meeting with a friend who's in the self-publishing business, and we're just having coffee. And I said, I'm giving serious thought to starting a publishing company where I guide authors through the entire process, but I maintain no ownership. Essentially, I will do everything a publisher does, but they own everything.
Yeah.
And she goes, oh gosh, you should do that. So anyway, that night someone calls me. That wasn't unique. People were calling me now all the time, meeting at Paneras, and I'm getting fat in the process. So she calls me and she says, I understand you can help me self-publish my book. I said, yeah, meet me at the Panera because I got a proposal for you. So I met her at the Panera the end of November 2012. And I said, listen, I've been doing this now for a couple of years. And I'm giving serious thought to starting my own business where I manage an author's entire project. Would you be my first beta test girl? She says, yeah, sure. That book went on to win a national award and become a movie at the Hallmark Channel.
Wow. Can you say who it is?
Yeah, Barbara Oliverio. The movie on the Hallmark Channel, they called it Love at Sea. Our book was called Love on the Lido Deck, which ours is much better.
Oh my
But
gosh, I think I've seen it.
Love at Sea.
I think I've seen it.
Well, yeah.
I'm
hard
a
to
Hallmark
decipher
junkie. Like, I'm
those.
just saying.
Well, they're all the same. Give me the plot line. Where
I
are
know,
they?
right? Like, I save up all my I do not watch a lot of TV, truth be told, but like I save it all up for December because like that's when Hallmark is like the best, and I'm like I binge watch. Like I get my 400,000 hours in the month of December.
You're in a romantic
like
mood.
I'm just like, oh, it's so good.
So we just never stopped from that point on. We went on today. We have about 40 editors of every varying genre and type of editing, and 5 coaches, meaning publishing coaches.
Yeah.
And we have cover designers, layout designers, etc. And we have published about 850 books at this time.
Wow.
So what makes the model different? Well, first I got to tell you, I remember thinking, well, someone has got to start a model where the authors maintain all their rights and they don't get ripped off. And I'm looking in the mirror going, oh, I guess that's me. So that's when I started My Word Publishing. And it just sort of blew up. There's rarely been any kind of lull since then.
Wow.
And so we're over 10 years old now.
Wow,
And
that's
at
incredible.
about 850 authors.
I love it.
So when I started, I remember going to my contract attorney. I'm like, listen, I don't want any contracts, because that's one of the big problems is you sign a contract, you can't get out of it.
Right. Yeah.
HarperCollins could come a knocking, you can't get out. No, I signed with Polly. No, no deal. So that's just not necessary today.
Yeah.
Okay, so no contracts.
Wow.
So
I'm just saying that's a
yes,
big deal.
It is.
That's a big deal.
And there's also that the author always maintains their own rights, their own royalties, everything goes straight into the bank account. Because one of the rights that you lose with any kind of publishing industry is that sales and distribution rights. So what that means is all the sales go through that company, and every 6 months they're redistributed to you, you get your portion.
Yes.
There's no reason to do it that way anymore.
Yeah.
So I tell people, they're not ripping you off. It's just that there's a much better way to do it, and there's not a single thing that they can do for you today that you can't do yourself. But of course, you don't know the way around, so that's where we come in.
That's why you hire a company to do it for you, because you have the experience and the knowledge and the expertise. Yeah.
So it's very much a model like you hire a general contractor to renovate your kitchen.
Right.
They could walk into my kitchen, which I see every day of my life, and say, well, there's going to be an issue here. There might be an issue there. And they know the legalities, and they know when to bring in the electrician, when to bring in the plumber.
Right.
And then they do all the troubleshooting and all the managing, and then they leave, and the kitchen's mine.
Yeah.
And they don't own my kitchen. And that's the model that this really is. So we have the right. When people do it themselves, they tend to do things backwards.
Yeah.
Like they proof edit their book before they, they lay it out before the proof edit. And so now they have to do it again.
Yeah, yeah.
So anyway, that's kind of the model.
So what's 3 tips that you would like to share with the audience? If they have a book inside of them, what's kinds of words of wisdom would you share with them?
If you want a professional book, and not everyone does, and I don't mean that condescending, it's true. Sometimes people just want it for the family history. We call it a legacy book. So if you want a professional
That's when you
book,
get out your fancy bonding machine. You just bond one up.
That's right.
I love my bonding machine.
Go to Kinko's, wrap that up. But if you want a professional book, then you got to get professionals involved, right?
Yeah,
and that's
fair.
really an editor. These people, well, yeah, it's been through editing, and then I dig a little deeper. I put it through Grammarly. Yeah, Grammarly's going to catch the plot lines and the character development. I don't think so.
It's a good start. Okay,
right, that's exactly right. It's a good start. So if you want professionals, the first thing we would do is ask, what are your goals? Well, I just want this story out there. They have no intention of marketing it, and we call that the bucket list. And it's very fair. A lot of people, they just want a book out there. I love it today that there's no longer the gatekeeper that says if your content is good enough to get out into the world. That's kind of cool. But the problem is anyone can put their book out.
Right.
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 So If someone just wants it for the bucket list or just for the family, then I'm not going to put them through a very painful, expensive development edit.
Yeah.
But if someone comes to me and they say, I want to become a writer and I want to make a living at this, then you
a different
have
story.
to get a great editor that is going to teach you. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's don't take a shortcut on your editing.
Yeah.
If you want your book for, say, a lead generator for your business, don't take shortcuts.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I would say one is get a good editor. The second was get professionals involved for every step of the way. And if you are a do-it-yourself kind of person, and people are, and I respect that, then at least do some homework. And you can start that homework with just talking to me,
Yeah.
okay?
Yeah.
Just for 1 hour, let's talk so you don't take the wrong turns and make the really bad moves that I did, and frankly, a lot of people still do. I feel like I want to throw people a life preserver, but they don't all want it, you know? So what can you do?
Right?
So,
They don't know what they don't know. Yep.
yeah.
Okay, final words of wisdom.
I think if you want to write your story, I've said it before, and I think this is the last words I want to say. If you want a professional book, please get professionals involved and learn from those of us that have made the mistakes.
Yeah.
Let my horrible, painful, expensive, dangerous mistake
When you
mean
ran,
something.
yeah.
And
Absolutely.
get professionals involved.
And I think all of us have a book inside of us. So make sure that you're reaching out. Real quick, what's your website so people can connect?
mywordpublishing.com.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And as always, be bold, be brave, be fearless, be the magic of you. Massive love to all of you. Mwah! Bye-bye. Thank you for joining me today. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Make sure you hit that notification bell to find out about my upcoming shows. Thank you for tuning in today, and I'll see you next time.